Alright, let's kick things off by exporting our reference image. Once that's ready, we'll jump straight into modeling. Instead of deleting the default cube, we're actually going to use it. Just grab your reference image, line it up, and start scaling the cube until it matches the basic shape of the bottle. Now, let's add a subdivision surface modifier. You can do this super quick. Just press Ctrl+1, 2, or 3 on your keyboard. Each number increases the level of smoothness. I'm dividing the window into 2 parts, one for modeling and one for the overview. Trust me, this trick is super useful when it comes to modeling. Now, let's start shaping the bottle. We'll add some supporting loop cuts along the mesh. This helps us define the curves and tighten the shape. And the best part, it would not overload our model even while using the subdivision modifier. I'm using the bevel tool here to evenly align the loop cuts on both sides. This way we get perfect symmetry across the bottle. I'm using the bevel tool here to evenly align the loop cuts on both sides. This way we get perfect symmetry across the bottle.
Sarap pag-write is this. Okay, thank you.
Now, at last, refine the curves of the bottle according to the reference image. After that, adjust the shape along the y-axis so it starts looking like a real bottle. Now our bottle body shape is done, so let's move on to the head. Take the top face of the bottle and inset it. Shape that inset into a square, just outside where the neck will start. Now inset one more time and subdivide it once. This gives us 8 vertices, which is perfect when working with subdivision. Use loop tools to turn it into a circle. Here, the outer edge works as support, and the inner edge will be used for the bottle head. If you're also getting this weird shape, just apply all transforms, and it will work fine. After that, scale the circle according to the size of the neck. Then connect loop cuts to the edges where the circle vertices are empty. This will give us perfect bevels in the bottleneck. And at last, dissolve the edges of the circle and extrude it to match the height of the neck. Then simply select the edges of the bottleneck and bevel them according to your liking. Now that we've completed modeling our body, let's finish the cap too. For that, add a circle to the scene and change the vertices count from 32 to only 8. Just remember what I said earlier. Now I'm shaping it according to the reference image and hopping into edit mode. Let's extrude the circle to match the shape of the cap and fill the top face. Now I think it's easy for you to continue. Just inset the top face according to the reference image. Then extrude it to fit the shape. At last, press E to extrude, but don't move it upwards. Simply scale it. Then press E again and extrude it. Now, before continuing further, let's add a subdivision surface modifier using the shortcut. Then hop back into edit mode and add some bevels to shape the cap. Also, add a loop cut to give the cap a curvy look. And at last, just bevel the remaining parts of the cap. Finally, we've also made the top part of the face. Now, let's make the glass pipe. For that, duplicate one of the circular edges and scale it down according to what you like. Then simply extrude it along the Z-axis. Extrude it again to make a partition, scale it down too. Then extrude again and scale it up. Now use your intelligence. Do beveling and scaling according to what you like or what suits you best. After making the outer body and the cap, we finally have to model the inner part too. For that, I'm using a cube and scaling it to fit according to the reference image. Then simply scale it to fit inside the outer body of the bottle. After that, we can use the subdivision surface modifier and use loop cuts to match the reference shape. Bevel it, add loop cuts, scale it, or shape it. It's totally up to you. For me, I'm going to use both bevels and loop cuts so it fits according to the reference image. Finally, we've completed the full modeling part of this model. At last, we will select all the meshes and move them into a separate collection. Now it's time to start our texturing part. But before that, let's add an HDRI to our scene. After that, add a plain mesh. And also add a camera to the scene. Then configure the placement of the camera. At last, extrude one edge of the plain mesh and bevel the corners. And now, we're good to start texturing the model. Now, finally, it's time to texture our model. So let's quickly hop over to the Cycles render engine. And look at this. It already looks beautiful even without textures. Pretty cool, right? First things first, open up the shader editor. Now, select the bottle, add a new material, and drop in a glass shader. Connect it to the material output, and don't forget to give this material a name. Organization saves lives in Blender. Next up, the inner body. Same story. Add a new material, name it however you like, and connect a glass shader to the material output. Easy stuff. Now let's tackle the cap. Press / on your keyboard. That isolates the mesh so you can actually focus without clutter. In edit mode, select the tube part, add a new material, name it, and assign it. Then hit that little plus icon to add another material. Here's the important step. Press Ctrl+I to invert the selection. Now Blender selects everything except what you just had selected. Press Assign, and boom, we've got two different materials on one mesh. Don't stop yet. Add a glass shader to the pump too. Now notice something? The glass looks too glassy. Not really what we want. So, jump into the Modifiers tab and slap on a Solidify modifier. Instant improvement. Same trick for the inner body. But oh, the pump tube looks super dark. Why? Because the Solidify modifier is blocking light from reaching it. No worries. Head to the Render tab. Under Light Paths, look for Max Bounces. Increase the value until the pump clears up. Usually, you won't hit this issue since Blender defaults to 12 bounces. But I lowered mine for faster renders. RTX 2050 things. Okay, glass is sorted. Let's tweak the roughness of all our glass shaders. Make it just the right amount of shiny. Now onto the cap material. Pick a color you like, add some clear coat, and adjust the roughness. Looks nice, but I see the reflections are a bit too strong. Easy fix, lower the IOR value. That controls how intense the reflections appear. Back to the bottle. Let's give it some personality with a gradient texture. Connect its color to the glass shader color. But it's moving on the x-axis, not what we want. To fix that, press Ctrl+T on the gradient texture. Add a separate XYZ node. Plug Z into the gradient texture, it eliminates the X and Y axis, and now the gradient only moves up and down. Perfect. Next, toss in a color ramp node. This lets you control the fade of the gradient. Slide the handles, change the colors, and get creative. Now, UV time. Switch the Shader tab to UV Editor. Hop into Edit mode. Open the Options drop-down, enable Live Unwrap, and also check that little button in the UV tab. Select the full bottle, press U, and unwrap. Oops, warning pops up. Blender says we need seams. So let's add seams. Select the outer edges where your label will go. Right-click, mark seam, done. Now we got a nice rectangular UV island. Perfect for labels. If other islands are getting in the way, just move them outside the UV grid. Scale up the main island to fit the grid. At last, go to the UV menu and hit Export UV Layout. And there we have it. Modeling, texturing, and UV layout export all complete. Now it's time to create a label for our model. We're going to use a free tool called Figma. And yep, don't skip the export settings. They're the key to applying the label correctly in Blender. So, open Figma and create a new design. You'll end up with a blank canvas. Now, if you press F on your keyboard, you'll get a frame. Drag and drop your UV export image and place it in the center of the frame. In the Layout tab, you can control the width and height of the frame. Now, let's start adding text. Press T to add text and start typing. To scale it up or down, just like in Blender, press K and drag the corners of the text. You can also press and hold your mouse to move elements anywhere. To change the font, use the Typography section. This is where you edit and manipulate the text. Choose any font you like. This is actually one of the trickiest steps in label designing. There's also an option for managing spacing between letters and lines. It helps your text look neat and professional. Now that you know the basics, and your label is simple too, start designing your own creative layout. At last, here's the most important step. Before exporting, delete the UV layout from the canvas and change the opacity of the white background to make the label transparent. Now, head to Export, select Export Frame, and save it to your desired folder. Then get back to Blender. Now that we've created and downloaded our label, it's time to actually apply it to our model. First of all, I'm going to add a mix shader node. Then add a principled BSDF and plug it into the lower socket of the mix shader. Next, add an image texture node. Open the label image we just created and connect its alpha to the factor of the mix shader. And boom, the label appears on the model. But we've got a problem. It's not placed where we want it, and it's repeating all over the body like stickers on a teenager's laptop. To fix the repetition, just change the repeat mode to extend in the image texture node. Nice, problem solved. Now let's place the label exactly where it belongs. Select the bottle body. Hop into edit mode. In the UV editor, if you can't see your label in the background, click the little image icon and select your label. Now move and scale the UVs, so the label sits perfectly where you want it. The cool part about using this method is, whatever changes you make to the principled BSDF will also affect the label. But since our label is already perfect, we don't need to tweak anything here. Okay, before we start lighting the scene, we need to scale down the model, but we don't want any modifier issues later. So first, apply the solidify modifier on every part where you used it. Now scale the model down to a reasonable size. It'll help a lot during lighting and scene creation. At last, don't forget to apply all transforms and origin to geometry. And with that, we're ready to start building our scene. Oh, and hey, if you're enjoying this tutorial, smash that like button and subscribe, so I can keep dropping more content like this for you. All right, let's start exploring some models from our Blender Kit library. It's a free add-on you can download from any browser. Now, let's look for something where we can place our bottle model. Maybe a tree trunk or a rock. It's totally up to you. And hey, don't stress about finding something better than mine. Okay, this is the model I'm going with. Just drag and drop it into the scene, and there it is. Now scale it down to match the scene, and place your bottle gently on top of the rocks. Honestly, it looks kind of cool. From here, move your camera around, rotate your bottle. Basically do whatever fits best in the scene. This part is totally your creative zone. After a bunch of clutter and questionable design decisions, I ended up with this scene. It's good, but it could be better. So, I tried to decorate it a bit more, because my eyes weren't fully satisfied. And, well, I ended up just wasting time. So let's not cry over past renders. And instead, let's light up the future. I mean, our scene. Now, finally, it's time for the lighting setup. And as always, let's start it with an area light. And see, now the lighting has a much better effect after scaling down the scene. Move the area light to one side of the model. For example, here I'm using it on the right side, and it's working as a key light for us. Tweak the rotation and scale according to your scene, wherever the light fits best, and also play with intensity. By the way, it looks much more cinematic with just one area light. Now, let's duplicate the light. and place it behind the model, and play with some intensity and sizing. Looks much better than before. And now, think about this. We placed an area light behind the model, so it will help the model to look good. But on the other hand, we didn't want our backlight to affect our whole scene. To ensure that the backlight should only make effect on the model, we can use a powerful lighting technique called light linking. Just select the backlight, hop over the Object Properties menu, and under Shading, you'll find the light linking option. Here you have to put the whole collection where your model belongs. And after that, the light will only affect the model, nothing else. Now, it's the final part of the lighting. To make our backdrop look good, just duplicate one of the lights and scale it so it will look like a tube light or long light. Then you can add a plane mesh, or just rotate the backdrop, because we only need the plane part. Now, place the light just behind the backdrop. To see the light effect, first hide all the other lights, and then start tweaking the intensity of the area light. Almost perfect. Okay, so this is the result after some tweaks in intensity. At last, do some of the tweaks by yourself, just like I'm doing here. Play with intensity, color of the backdrop, or maybe try changing the rock, or add some more detailing to the scene with new models. It's totally up to you. Now, if you've been here till the end, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and drop some suggestions about the video. And here's our final render. And you can now make multiple renders of the same scene. Just change the camera angles, and you'll end up having something you didn't even think of